If you've served time in prison or you are a justice impacted person, it's super important for you to develop emotional intelligence. That means we've really got to be thinking about the perspectives of other people. I remember one time when I go into jails and prisons a lot. And I remember one time I went into a prison and I was giving a presentation on how to prepare for success after prison. And one guy asked me, he said, well, what can you do for me if I get out of prison, or when I get out of prison? I said, what do you want me to do for you? And he said, I want you to get me a job. And I said, well, I can get you a job as long as you make a commitment to living as a law-abiding, contributing citizen. And the fellow told me, he said, well, I still want to be a gang member. And that's just showing, it's what he wants. Emotional intelligence means we've got to be thinking about the other people. What do they want? If I could figure out what other people want, I can get what I want. And an employer is not going to want to have somebody who's a gang member working in their company for a lot of reasons. Because even though this guy may want to say, I'm going to go straight and I'm part of this group and I want to be a part of this group, it's making the business owners, it's putting the business owner's company at risk. It's putting the other employers, it's making them afraid. It's putting the customers at risk. It's exposing the employer to liability. And so it's very unlikely that an employer will offer a job to somebody who is identifying himself as a gang member and wants to stay a gang member. To develop emotional intelligence means we've got to be thinking about the people with whom we're going to interact and find a way to get those people to believe in us. And if we can do that, well, we can open new opportunities. At least that's what I found. I'm curious to know what you think, and we'll talk about that on the other side after I read this lesson, which is lesson number 23 on emotional intelligence. Remember, at Prison Professors, we're striving to teach people how to teach themselves, particularly justice-impacted people. So the vocabulary word of the day is emotional intelligence, which is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage one's own emotions and the emotions of others, and to use this awareness to guide thinking and behavior in social interactions. So, emotional intelligence involves being aware of and effectively managing our own emotions. It also leads to better understanding and empathy with the feelings of others. By developing our emotional intelligence, we cultivate healthier relationships, improve communications, and navigate conflicts with compassion and resilience. I'll offer a scenario from my memories of living in a high-security federal prison. Tensions often run high in those environments, and conflicts arise frequently. Jake, a person with high emotional intelligence, was in a precarious situation. Two others, Alex and Ryan, engaged in a heated argument. Jake, recognizing the importance of emotional intelligence in diffusing the situation, took the following actions. Self-awareness. Jake acknowledged his emotions. He tried to remain calm and composed despite the tense environment of the pen. He understood that his emotional state could influence the outcome of the situation. Empathy. Both Alex and Ryan had their own frustrations and challenges. Jake approached the situation with empathy, attempting to grasp their underlying emotions and perspectives. Active listening. Jake listened to Alex and Ryan without judging them. He encouraged them to express their concerns and frustrations. They all had an equal opportunity to express themselves, fostering a sense of understanding. Mediation. Jake could mediate, facilitating an open and respectful dialogue between Alex and Ryan. He encouraged them to express their grievances, but helped them see each other's point of view. Emotional regulation. Jake demonstrated emotional stability and self-control. He managed his own emotions, avoiding personal biases and remaining neutral. His composed demeanor created an environment conducive to conflict resolution. Problem solving. Jake guided the conversation toward identifying solutions to the underlying issues. He helped Alex and Ryan find common ground and encouraged them to brainstorm mutually beneficial resolutions. Jake promoted cooperation and a shift away from confrontation by focusing on problem solving. Follow-up and support. After mediating the dispute, Jake followed up with Alex and Ryan individually to ensure that tensions had eased and that they had resolved the conflict. Jake's emotional intelligence helped to de-escalate a problem, and that skill would prove highly valuable to a person in prison or after release. It requires practice, understanding, and patience. Self-awareness. Emotional intelligence starts with self-awareness. It involves recognizing and understanding our emotions, including their triggers, patterns, and impact on our thoughts and behavior. By becoming more self-aware, we can better regulate our emotions and make conscious responses. Empathy. Empathy is a key component of emotional intelligence. It is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. By empathizing with others, we develop deeper connections, enhance communication, and build trust and rapport. Emotional regulation. Emotional intelligence includes the skill of effectively managing and regulating our emotions. It involves recognizing and acknowledging our emotions without being overwhelmed by them and finding healthy ways to express and cope with them. Social awareness. Emotional intelligence extends to social awareness, which is the ability to perceive and understand the emotions and needs of others. By being attentive to nonverbal cues and actively listening, we can better understand and respond to the emotions of those around us. Relationship management. Emotional intelligence accompanies the skill of managing relationships effectively. It involves communicating assertively, resolving conflicts constructively, and fostering positive connections based on empathy, understanding, and respect. So here are some questions for you. How do you understand the concept of emotional intelligence? Why is emotional intelligence important for personal development, particularly during imprisonment? Share an example of a time when emotional intelligence helped you navigate a challenging relationship or conflict in prison. How did it contribute to your personal growth? How can developing your emotional intelligence help you prepare for building healthy relationships and resolving conflicts after release? What strategies can you employ to enhance your emotional intelligence during your time in prison? Activity. Reflect on a recent interaction or conflict where you could have demonstrated more emotional intelligence and describe the emotions involved, how you responded, and the outcome of the situation. What could you have done differently to handle the situation with more emotional intelligence? Identify one aspect of emotional intelligence that you would like to develop further. Write down specific actions you can take to enhance that aspect, such as practicing active listening, seeking feedback from others, or practicing self-reflection. Remember, emotional intelligence is a powerful tool for personal development, building positive relationships, and resolving conflicts. By developing and nurturing your emotional intelligence during your time in prison, you equip yourself with the ability to understand and manage emotions, empathize with others, and foster healthy and fulfilling connections. These skills will serve you well in your journey toward post-release success. And if you want to write to us, there is our contact information at the bottom of every page here. We are prison professors, and our address is 32565 Golden Lantern, Suite B1026 in sunny Dana Point, California at 92629. And I want you to be thinking about how are you really using emotional intelligence in your life. And I want to give you kind of an example of a lesson I learned while I was visiting a Supermax federal prison the only Supermax federal prison in Florence, Colorado. And I got an opportunity to present inside of that facility, and I found the people with whom I was interacting to be very engaged because they really wanted to do everything they possibly could to learn, and they genuinely appreciated this opportunity to learn from somebody who went through 26 years in prison and came out successfully. I'll always remember my conversation with one of the guys there, and I had to speak to him inside like a telephone booth-like cage. And he was in the cage, and I got to present for an hour or so, and Warden Reardon was there, who's the warden of the Supermax facility. Other people were there, including a supervisor of education, who was Miss Marquette, and some associate wardens and the captain. And I got to explain to these people, tell them the story about what I've been sharing with you through our Preparing for Success After Prison program. And afterwards, I would just, have a conversation with him. And I asked the fella, tell me about what brought you here to the ADX. And it's a very sad story because here's a guy who started off with like a 7-year sentence, and he did his time in like a low security prison. But, he had a reputation of gang affiliation, but he served his sentence and he got out and he was living at home and went on to live his life. But while he was at home, he got into a confrontation with his girlfriend, and that confrontation led to a phone call to authorities, and those authorities came by and they didn't arrest him, but there became a record that there was this like domestic argument in his home. And as a result, his probation officer came, and because he was gang affiliated, the probation officer put more attention on him. And he decided, even though the authorities did not arrest him, the gang, the person that was related to the gang task force said, no, I think you need more time in prison. And they put him back in prison for violating the terms of his supervised release. And then while he was in prison, because he is an authority figure with the gang, he got into trouble in the prison. And before I knew it, he was at the ADX Supermax prison. And it's really sad because all of this stems from emotional intelligence. Had he been thinking earlier, every day, I have a felony background. I am a convicted felon. I have a history, or if you have a history of gang affiliation, that means other people are going to see you differently. And to the extent you could say, I got to stop thinking about how I see things, and I've got to start thinking about how other people see me, that's going to adjust my behavior. And if I adjust my behavior well, I am going to do things that minimize my exposure to these problems. We can't do anything to change the past. I look at myself as being unemployable because I did 26 years in prison, because I am number 16377-004. It's the reason I'm very cautious of everything I do, because I know who I am. I did 26 years in prison. And if I'm driving down the road and an officer pulls me over, he's going to see, right, something, let me screw it over here. He's going to know, like this little thing I used to carry around in my pocket when I was in prison, right? My prison ID, right? There's 2 IDs here. One is my prison, my prison card from when I was incarcerated, and the one next to it, I like to show also, that's me as a professor at San Francisco State University, faculty, right? It's emotional intelligence that helps us go from here to here, and it's what I want you thinking about. It's the emotional intelligence that while we're in prison allows us to get married in prison. That's my wife and me. That's Carol when we were inside of a federal prison. And I got married to her inside of a federal prison, and we've nurtured our life together because I have emotional intelligence. I try to think about her, and I'm always asking her, and I'm always asking myself, what can I do to make her life better? That is a mantra of my life, and it's the reason I got married inside of a federal prison during my 16th year And now we're just celebrating our 20th year of marriage because I'm always investing in that. I'm always thinking, what can I do to make her life better? And if I can do that, I'm going to make my life better. And if you can use that emotional intelligence, you're going to make your life better too. And that's why I always encourage you, use all of the resources that are available to you. Use the premium products that Adovo makes available or that Prison Professors makes available that we give so much away for free. But we want you to reach your highest potential. And to do that, we encourage you to develop your emotional intelligence just like we discussed in this lesson. My name is Michael Santos, and on behalf of everyone on our team, I want to thank the Bureau of Prisons. I want to thank Adovo. I want to thank the California Department of Corrections. And really, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for allowing me to come into your life with hopes of delivering a message that will help you reach your highest potential. I believe in you.